Good morning. We are going to start with law of torts. Okay. Now first of all, law of torts is not a codified law. Therefore you have to first understand what is codified law and what is uncodified law. Codified law means when the president promulgates it and the parliament makes it. Means the sequence is like the parliament passes the law, it goes to the president, president gives the assent and it becomes a law. That is an enacted law, a codified law. A codified law is having its own name, a short title, a long title. It is having sections, subsections, provisos, then explanations. Those all are the part of a codified law. Our constitution, our Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, our law of contract, all these are codified law. It means they are enacted by the parliament. So when section wise represented, the provisions are clearly mentioned and it is been promulgated in a particular year, that is a codified law, while tort law is uncodified. It is not having its sections or subsections and all. It is completely uncodified. It is not an enacted law. So here we are going to study about different cases through which certain torts have come into existence, or from that particular case you can say a tort was recognized by a judge. This law of tort is a law from England which is being enforced here, however unenacted or uncodified. Therefore these are all the general terms, however we follow it, they are so important. You have to first understand this, कि other laws are codified. The examples I have given you: law of contract, the evidence law, that is Bharatiya Saksha Adhiniyam, and Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, that is our previous Indian Penal Code. All these are enacted laws, while our tort law is uncodified. Therefore we are going to study here the different concepts. Okay, today we are going to discuss about what do you mean by tort. Okay, tort, simple. Tort means a wrong. Tort is a French word which has been derived from a Latin term tortum, which simple means a wrong. However, man has not defined what is a wrong. When man started studying, or you can say when he started making certain rules and regulations, what he did, he first said, this is right, you have to do this. We are going to form a society, which is governed by rules and regulations. Ancient society was governed by customs and traditions. But what are customs and traditions? Those are also certain rules and regulations. So man decided and he made certain rules and regulations in the form of a custom, in a form of a religion, and these rules and regulations were in the form of do's, that this is right, you have to do this, you have to do this. However, certain persons didn't follow it, they did just the opposite. As they did just the opposite, it was called as a wrong. Thereafter man stated, okay, these wrongs are very serious kind of, so they should be severely punished. Therefore man gave it a name called as crime, while other wrongs were just wrongs which were called as tort. For tort you have to go to the civil court, and the main remedy here in tort is compensation. Certain wrongs were arising from a contract, or you can say an agreement. When we are going to discuss about the law of contract, we will see the history also, and we will see the basic concept of contract. But generally here you consider that two people, they come together, they agree for certain terms and conditions, and that is a contract. However, though they have agreed for certain terms and conditions, one of the person does not follow it, it becomes a breach of contract. That is also wrong, but that is not a tort, but it is a breach of contract because it arises from an agreement. Okay, now for understanding what tort is, we are going to see one definition, and that definition is of Percy Winfield. What he says: tortious liability arises from a breach of a duty primarily fixed by law towards person generally, redressable by in a civil court for unliquidated damages. Redressable by a civil action. I'll put in his own words, it is like redressable by a civil action for unliquidated damages. This is a simple definition of tort. We are going to analyze, we will analyze it, we will divide it, and we will discuss. What are the first few words? Tortious liability arises. Liability means responsibility. So when a person does a wrong, that is a tort here, the liability will arise, that is the responsibility is going to arise. If you do some wrong, the other side is having a full right to file a case in a court. Therefore, you are a tortfeasor. A person who commits a tort is called as a tortfeasor. Like a person who commits a crime is called as a criminal. Therefore, a person who does a tort, he is called as a tortfeasor, and he will be liable in law. Therefore, tortious liability arises. It arises means he has to do some wrong. If no wrong occurs, as I said, man had made rules and regulations in a form of right, means dues. You have to do this, you have to do this. And imagine a society where all the people are fulfilling it from sunrise to sunset, from till the next sunrise. If everything is done in a proper manner, everything is done in a proper time, each and every person is following his duties, his rules, his regulations, no wrong would have occurred. But as wrong occurs, we have to study about it. So when a wrong occurs, he will be liable, he will be responsible for that. Therefore, tortious liability is going to arise. Tortious liability arises. It is not like all people are liable. No, if he commits it, if he does the tort, then he will be liable. Therefore, tortious liability will arise. Why it will arise? Tortious liability will arise from a breach of a duty. It is a duty which is being told to him that you have to do this, you have to do this, and he does not do it. He does not do it. Therefore, he makes a breach of a duty. Imagine that one building is there, a person is staying upstairs, and from his window he throws some garbage. He throws something. He is throwing it. He should not do it. It means he throws it. He throws it means he makes a breach of a duty. He has been told not to throw it, and he does it. He makes a breach of a duty. Okay, he makes a breach of a duty, and tortious liability will arise. This breach of duty is fixed by law. Who says do this or don't do this? Law says it. Like in a contract, terms and conditions are being fulfilled by whom? By the parties. Therefore, who tells you that do this? One of the party. We'll take a simple example. A landlord and a tenant is there. Okay, the landlord is telling the tenant in his agreement that on the 1st of every month you have to pay me the rent. Who is telling him to tenant to pay the rent? The landlord. Means a party to the contract is telling to the other party, you have to pay this. Means these duties are fixed by the landlord, isn't it? Therefore, if these duties are broken, you can say like the duty fixed by one of the party is broken. However, in tort what happens? Duties are fixed, but these duties are fixed by law. We will see again the first part. Tortious liability arises. It arises. Something is been done. Some wrong occurs, and therefore the tortious liability will arise. Means a person will be liable in tort sometimes when it does some wrong. Tortious liability arises from a breach of a duty, and that duty is fixed by law. Okay, the law has fixed these duties. Towards whom? Towards persons generally. In a contract, the duty was of the tenant to pay the rent to the landlord, not to all others. The tenant is not going to pay rent to us. He is not liable to us. He is not responsible to us to pay the rent because we are no one. He will pay the rent to the landlord. Therefore, the duties are towards the landlord, or the landlord's duties are towards the tenant. The parties are fixed. They are having their duties towards each other. However, in tort, the duties are towards all the people generally. The example which we took, the person who is residing upstairs, he should not throw anything from his window or from his balcony. This duty is towards whom? His duties is towards the people who are going from the road. Means all the people, any people. Therefore, these duties are towards persons generally. Again, we will take the first part. Tortious liability arises from the breach of duty, primarily fixed by law, towards persons generally. Means towards all the people the duties are there. You are having certain duties towards the whole world and you break it. Therefore, the duty is fixed by law, and that duties are towards person generally, and it is redressable by what? It is redressable by an action, civil action. Means you have to go to the civil court, file a case and ask for what? Ask for compensation. In tort, we call it as damages. See, the word damage is different and damages is different. Damage means the actual injury caused or the loss caused, and damages means compensation, monetary compensation, pecuniary advantage which the court will give you. So, in tort, you are going to file a case, tell about that the tortfeasor has done this wrong. You will get compensation. This compensation is in a monetary form. Okay, now this compensation will be given by the court. You have to ask it, but you don't know at the time of filing of a case what amount you are going to get. This amount is the discretionary powers of the court. Though the court is going to apply the discretion judicially, he will give it. You ask him an amount, you ask him 10 lakhs, 50 lakhs, 25 lakhs. If he feels it proper as per the rules and regulations which he has to follow while awarding compensation, and he will give you compensation. Therefore, the amount is not fixed. Therefore, it is called as unliquidated damages. Unliquidated damages. You ask, you prove, the court will give you according to his discretionary powers. This is the definition of tort. We'll see again. Tortious liability arises from a breach of a duty towards persons generally, fixed by law, redressable by a civil action, and you will get unliquidated damages. Not the damages are not fixed, the compensation is not fixed. This is the definition of tort. So, by the definition we comes to know that first, tortious liability will arise. If somebody does wrong, it will arise for the breach of duty. The duty is fixed by law towards persons generally, redressable by a civil action for unliquidated damages. This is a tort. Tort means a wrong, something twisted. The word tortum itself shows something twisted, something wrong, where you can come to the court, the civil court. You are not going to ask here punishment. You are going to ask here the compensation, and the person will get it. This is a definition of Percy Winfield.